Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. I am so glad that you are here. I am just making sure I have y'all on line here so I can check comments as they are coming up. Excellent. Here we go. Let's rock and roll, y'all. I know in my last Facebook Live, hello, Tyra. Let me know if you're here. Say hello. I'm so glad to see you guys this morning or afternoon or evening, wherever it is you're at. Just want you guys to know we were talking about some self-care earlier this week, and I know there were some questions around soul food and SOULplay and what does that look like. And so today I want to actually bring more depth to that conversation and talk a little bit about what I mean when I say soul food and what I mean when I say SOULplay, and then talk about and dig in a little bit more around the 5 cups of wellness. So today we are talking about soul food, SOULplay, and the 5 cups of wellness. And it is so great. You can see one of my big cups back there. That's on my little boy, Peyton, for those of you that don't know me well. But it is so good to have you all here. One of the things I want you guys to think about is we're talking about self-care. One of the reasons I'm leaning into this so much this month is, if you are not aware, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I know from someone who, and just to give you a little bit of my story, I'm someone who's had firsthand experience with mental illness and mental health issues. It runs very strong in my family, especially depression. And growing up, I sort of saw 2 sides of it. My dad was very narcissistic and extremely abusive. So there was a lot of mental and emotional distress, oftentimes physical distress as well, in terms of trauma and abuse from my dad, who was very much in a capacity where he didn't know how to love himself, let alone love other people. And then my mom actually was diagnosed at one point with clinical depression. And so she ended up getting into some pretty dark spells when we were younger. And in fact, even my parents split when I was 12. And even at the age of 15, my mom, God bless her, and so courageous and brave for what she chose to do, but recognized that she was spiraling pretty deep. And she put herself into a hospital because she actually had suicidal thoughts and did not want to actually do something about it. So she went and sought help. And during that time, I became the parent and raised my brother and sister, and even had a period where, and I'll be sharing more about this later, had a period where I lived alone for 3 weeks. At the age of 15, and was working full-time as a waitress in a pancake and steakhouse in our local community. And I say that because a lot of people don't know that background. They don't know that mental health has been so prevalent in my family. There's been a lot of alcoholism. There's been a lot of depression. There's been a lot of bipolar and even manic that's shown up in both sides of my family and my lineage. And so it is something that is really near and dear to my heart. And it is something that I think we need to open up conversations around more often. The fact that we, poo-poo or try to hush conversations around mental illness is part of the problem. And so this being Mental Health Awareness Month, I really want to talk about those things that make sure that our own wealth and wellness are in a capacity to be full, that we are taking care of ourselves, because oftentimes the deeper aspects of depression happen because people feel isolated and separated, and there's not a way to take care of what you need for yourself, and to be in a space to really be able to practice self-love and self-care. And so not only is that important just to prevent us from hitting burnout and anxiety and some of these other things that show up, self-care is really important so that we make sure, from a mental capacity, from an emotional capacity, a spiritual capacity, our cups are full or overflowing. And so with that, I want you to think about, there's a quote from Walt Whitman that I absolutely love. And it says, "Reexamine all that you've been told. Dismiss what insults your soul." We live in a society, we live in a culture, and whether you're in the Western hemisphere or on the other, across the pond, as we like to say, and you're in Europe or somewhere else, Australia, we have created a global culture around dismissing our inner needs. We've become detached. We've become separated. We've not truly asked ourselves what activates and lights up our soul. And so when we think about the opportunity to re-examine all that we've been told, one of the things that I love, and it's one of my favorite things I've learned as I've delved into this space more and more, is not to believe anything I think. It's to let go of anything I think I know. It's to let go of any frame or filter or way I've been told things need to be, right? And I think about the last 15 months, even as we've been in a pandemic, everything that we've known or thought we've known has somewhat imploded. The way we go to work, the way we engage, the way we teach and our kids go to school, our health, like everything as we know it has been sort of rocked to its core. And it gives us permission to say, maybe there's a different way to look at things, right? And I know I posted recently, we get caught sometimes in this what if scenario where we play the doomsday and we do a lot of the shoulding, and we keep ourselves in a space of everything that we've ever been told and what we've been taught and what's been carried down from one generation to the next, when honestly we have this opportunity to sort of hit pause and to say, what else is possible? If I were to imagine the possibilities, and if I were to re-examine everything that's ever been told to me, everything that I thought I believed, everything that I thought I knew, what space would that create for me? And so I really urge you to step into that space to re-examine that. Re-examine everything you believe. Re-examine the things you stand for. Re-examine everything you think and don't believe everything you think. Re-examine the stories. Re-examine the history. Re-examine all that's brought you to this point, and start asking and leaning in to the question around, is this feeding my soul? Or is this actually creating something that feels like a contradiction or feels like a contraction against my soul? And so I love this quote when it says, re-examine all that you've been told. Hey, Mel, dismiss what insults your soul, right? So thinking about that space, thinking about getting into the idea that everything as we know it is up for exploration, is up to be further delved into, is up to maybe even be released and dismissed, right? So when you realize that nothing we think is actual truth, it is a version of something based on a filter, based on a experience, based on things that have been told to us, stories that have lineage that have been passed down from one generation to the next, we have an opportunity to stop and say, imagine if there were another way. Imagine if there were more to the story. Imagine if there was an entirely different story. And so I say that because part of what I want to lean into as we talk about soul food and SOULplay and the 5 cups of wellness is what's available to you that maybe there's an opportunity to open up access for on a bigger scale, right? On a higher vibration, to let go of that which doesn't serve you anymore. And so dismiss whatever is not fully aligned and feeling expansive in your soul. And here's how you know if something's expansive or contractive, right? Expansive, you feel it. You feel this lightness. You feel this energy. You feel an openness. It feels fluid. It feels dynamic. It feels soft. It feels gracious. It feels like love. So it inspires you. It charges you up. It helps you to feel open and free. And so that's what expansion feels like in your body. Think about those moments when you're in your sweet spot, when you're in the zone or something just lights you up. Notice how your body feels. It's your shoulders go back, your chest opens up. You feel like you can connect to it. It's a very expansive, freeing, flowing space. Contraction, on the other hand, is when we feel like we're coiled up. It's that space when we shrink. It's that space when all that pain and all that stuff starts to ricochet in our body and we're like, ooh. Or when we hold our breath, it's when we get tight and closed. And so notice what shows up that makes you feel expansive is usually aligned and deeply connected into your soul. Those things that feel contracted or feel as if they're creating resistance are the things that are opportunities for you to re-examine. So let go of those things that insult your soul and let go of those things that aren't aligned. And do as I say, which is that bless and release, right? There are things that got you to this point that absolutely served at some point. So it's not to be critical of that. It's not to be judgmental. It's not to get into a space to beat yourself up, to be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still holding on to that. It's to honor what that brought you to get you to this point. It's to bless and have gratitude, deep gratitude and reverence for the fact that that was part of your journey. And then it's to allow yourself to say, I no longer need that and can untether myself and unattach and just let it be released. I can just let it go. It doesn't have to be some massive declaration. It doesn't have to be something that requires work or all this like heavy lifting. It can simply be as simple as saying, I choose to let that go. I choose to release it. I'm just going to have deep gratitude and reverence for what it brought into my life and how it got me to this point. And I'm just going to let it go from there. So when we talk about that, I want you to think about this idea of how do we feed our soul? And when I talk about wellness, I talk about it maybe a little bit different than the way other people talk about it. And so wellness, I love those first four letters, well. So what do we mean when we talk about wellness or wealth, which is WELLTH, the way I like to spell it? And when we talk about wellness, we're talking about this aspect of wholehearted and enlightened self-love and leadership. So I want you to think about that. It's that space, and this is the Enlightened SOULciety, right? So when we talk about that, it's this living wholeheartedly, living from an enlightened space where you are totally tapped into your ability for self-love, because your self-love then emanates the love that you can put out into the world and how you serve others, and your choice for how you're choosing to show up and serve, and your own leadership. And so when I say wellness, when I say that aspect of well, it's that space of wholehearted and enlightened self-love and leadership. So when we talk about the 5 cups of wellness, we're talking about those 5 cups that feed your wealth, your ability to be wholehearted, to create further enlightenment, and to really be in the expression of your own self-love and the way that you choose up and choose to lead in the world. And so I offer that because I think it's important that we get some context sometimes when we're talking about things, so that we're sort of level setting and talking from the same place. Because there's a lot of things that we hear and we're like, we nod our head and we go, yeah, I got it, it's good, whatever, Candy, you know what, right? And it's yes, and let's dig into that a little bit deeper. Again, let's let go of anything that's not feeding us. And so when I talk about that, I talk a lot about soul food, right? Soul food is the very thing that nourishes your mind, body, and spirit. And for each of us, soul food looks different. We tend to think about, what do I need to fuel my body? What do I need to perform? Many of you know I love to do Camp Gladiator and boot camp, and I love to train. I have to be really mindful about what I feed my body in terms of nutrition. If I feed my body crap, it's going to perform like crap. When I show up for you guys, do I have the energy to be here? And so how we choose to nourish, to fuel, to feed our mind, body, and spirit matters, right? We need to be thinking about, how are we growing what we know? And again, it's coming from that place of thinking from a beginner's mind. It's coming from a place that says, I've realized, it's funny that the more I've grown over the years, the more I realize, the more I know, the less I know. Because every time I learn something new, it shifts the frame, it opens things up. Everything that I've ever thought I knew has been disrupted, and I love it. It's juicy, right? It gets into a space, and that's a growth mindset where you realize that you're always coming from the ability to be a learner, to be a student, and to come from a beginner's mindset. And so that you're open to receive new ideas, new perspectives, new things to be curious about, new creativity, new flow. How are you feeding and nourishing that space? Your body, again, you are not your body. Your body is simply the temple that houses this soul, this light, this way that you get to emanate in the world. It is the thing that actually lets us move through our experiences and interactions with others. And oftentimes we are so dismissive or abusive. And I know I've had practice. I spent years before I hit my rock bottom point, where I was doing all kinds of addictive and obsessive things that were ways that I was destroying my temple, that is my body, this housing that's carrying this soul, this light around with me. And I was doing everything from binge eating to taking excessive levels of fat burners, to working out too hard, to drinking excessively, to just piling on stress and anxiety and overwhelm overwhelm and essentially selling my soul to everyone else and not reclaiming it back for myself. And I say that because we often get into these spaces where we're like, well, when I finish this project, I'll start taking better care of my body. When I finish this, then I'll pay attention. When next Monday I'll start this new thing. When we don't realize is our body is that space that allows us to move and dance inside of this human experience that we're having. It is what allows us to be here, to emanate that light and to express the gifts that are ours. And so we need to be looking at our wealth, our wellness in that capacity. How are we creating a wholehearted and enlightened space of love and leadership when it comes to our body? Are we feeding ourselves with the things that actually create more expansion and activate us to play at our highest and best level? Or are we using our body as a human garbage can? And it's amazing to me because I have people so many times that will say, I don't know why I feel this way. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm trying to be out for people and I just don't have energy. But if you look at what they're choosing, and this is different for everybody, you need to listen to your body and get into an attunement that says, and think about your car, right? They give you a car, you have a model, and they tell you what type of oil needs to go into your car. If you put an oil that's not the oil that's right for your car, it actually can cause your car to have mechanical failures and breakdowns and can cause chemical erosions. So it's the same thing with our body. We're all designed differently. Somebody may need more grass-fed meat than somebody else might need plant-based materials, just based on what your body does and how you cellularly take in nutrition. We need to be in an attunement with our body to know what feeds it. And so paying attention to those things that you ingest, those things that you consume, and notice how your body feels as a result. Does it feel open? Does it feel light? Does it feel energized? Does it feel joyful? Or are you feeling heavy and weighed down? Are you having the meat sweats? Are you doing, you know what I mean? Our body is such a truth teller. And oftentimes we dismiss it as a secondary when it is the thing that's allowing us to move with ease and grace through the world. And then there's our spirit, right? There's this space of wealth in terms of our own spirit, our own emotional tank, our own ability to feel joy and gratitude, our own ability to expand at our higher consciousness and to connect at a higher vibration, our own ability and intimate and private journey into our walk with God or source or universe or Buddha or Tao or whatever that might be for you. It's that ability to have that path to connect to our own higher sense of knowing and guidance. It's our truth versus what we think is true. And it's our ability to feed that. Are we in a space where we're continuing to grow and nurture and feed that relationship with our spiritual entity as well? And so when we talk about soul food, it's those things that nourish that very space. How are you nourishing your mind, your body, your spirit? And we're going to talk about those 5 cups of wellness a little bit more in a moment. But are you taking care? Is that your priority? And I mentioned last time that you need to be your priority. It's a non-negotiable. It is not selfish to prioritize yourself. It's actually selfish when you don't. You have no chance of playing at your highest and best level or activating your highest vibration and frequency if you are not making the nourishment of your mind, body, and spirit a number 1 absolute non-negotiable priority. It has to be for you to be able to serve your gifts in the highest way possible. And so I say that because oftentimes we get tripped up in this whole dynamic around what's selfish, what's not. And watched my Facebook Live from Monday earlier this week to get into that conversation around the difference between selfish and selfful. We need to redefine. Again, it goes back to that space of what Walt Whitman said. Reexamine all you've been told. Dismiss that which insults your soul. It insults your soul, and it actually insults the souls of others when you don't think you deserve or are worthy to put yourself first, because you are never sharing the best of your gifts. You are never putting out your tremendous light, that space of love and inspiration and your deepest, most beautiful generosity and compassion and gifts in that space, as well as your ability to heal and help people and yourself walk into their truth. And so when you think about that, our soul being that source of unlimited light, We've got to be able to prime that tank. We've got to be able to make sure it's full or overflowing in order for us to have any capacity to raise our vibration, to raise our consciousness, to raise our leadership, and lift others through our gifts and through our life, and help them do the same. And so I say that because soul food is this space of truly getting aligned, getting attuned to understanding what feeds your body, mind, and soul. And I'm going to be sharing here probably next week. We're in the process of developing it right now, a new way for you to actually learn the strategies and tools to determine, to actually understand what soul food you need. And we're going to have a space where you can start to activate a place of soul play. And for some of you, I know the question has shown up, what do you actually mean when you say soul play? What does that mean? And this is a really good example of how far detached many of us are, how far out of alignment many of us are when it comes to soul play. Soul play is allowing your inner child to be free, to let go of your endless need for adulting. So it's the day to stop adulting for 5 minutes and to give yourself space to really create. We create when we have an opportunity to be curious, when we have an opportunity to imagine when we have an opportunity to free ourselves from all of the constraints and restrictions we place on ourselves as adults, and step into a place to dance, to step into a place to play, to step into a place that feels unencumbered and untethered and simply feels wide open. So imagine right now in your mind that it's an open field where you just get to twirl and dance. When's the last time you twirled, by the way? And you're listening to your favorite music, and it's light and it's playful, and you hear little children giggling, which is actually your own self giggling. And it's that space. We need space every day for soul play. We need space. And one of the things we're going to be starting to lean into as well is activating your own human design, your energetic soul blueprint, which is the way you're wired. It's the way you were designed coming into this world. That is your expression of how you get to put your gifts into activation, how you get to share them with others. We all have a coding, we have a wiring, and human design, your energetic soul blueprint allows us to better understand that, whether you're a manifestor or a manifesting generator or a generator or a projector or reflector. Myself as a manifesting generator, I actually need to carve out space in the day to just play. Like I need to watch a funny video, or I need to listen to some really good music, or I need to dance, because when I get into creative flow, I go really deep and I get like locked in. And then when I need to shift, I need to just have a place to like, and play. And so there are times where I give myself periods where I'll do the little rabbit trail where I'm watching sort of like music videos, or I'm watching something funny, or I'm dancing and singing to some 80s music. I'm forever telling my device back there to turn on some 80s music, right? Because it's just that space. Or I walk Peyton in the middle of the day. It's that space to play so that I can activate my highest level of creation, my highest level of creativity. And we need to be able to be in a space to allow ourselves to stop adulting. And again, based on how you're wired, that may look different for different people. And soul play can be something as simple as letting yourself doodle for a few minutes. Or you noticed yesterday, I posted a question around, are you giving yourself space to daydream, to play imagine if, to just let your mind wander? We need to stop being so regimented in our rules and our structure. Our creativity, our imagination needs time to dance. So soul play is that space of activating, allowing yourself to dance, to live in the moment of pure bliss and joy. Feel that for a minute. Pure bliss and joy, to activate and raise your vibration, to be present, to be in this juicy, delicious space. It's really tapping into the juiciest, most unencumbered space inside of you. It's allowing your inner child to just come out and express herself or himself, right? It's simply allowing yourself to be. And so we need more space for soul play. And as I said, I'm going to be introducing a way for some of you that really want to get in and do some deeper work around this, want to start to understand and ask yourself the questions that are going to allow you to open up access for, what does soul food look like for me? What do I need to nourish my mind, body, and spirit? what does soul play look like? And how do I even start to dance in that space? And then we're going to talk about a place and moving into a space that allows us to talk about the 5 cups of wellness. And I touched on this a little bit in the last Facebook Live, but again, that that wellness being wholehearted and enlightened love and leadership, right? I mean, think about that: wholehearted love and leadership, enlightened love and leadership. That is a space when we are full or overflowing, we get to show up and we get to emanate, we get to express, we get to activate our highest gifts. And so the 5 buckets or the 5 cups of wellness are what I like to call, there's the trifecta up top. There is the spiritual cup, which is without a doubt your most important, your most critical cup to feed. This is your relationship with your higher self. This is a personal, intimate, this is a deeply connected space of understanding who you are, what you're connected to, what you came from, and what you're here to serve. So it is that space of understanding your light, your purpose, your gifts. It's that space of your own personal walk with God, the universe, source, life, love, Tao, Buddha, whatever you might call that. Like I said, I have a group, sometimes we call it Penelope, because people get really jammed up in that space. What is that walk for you? What is that path? What is that place of knowing, that deepness, that guidance that is directing you in your life, that is downloading through you, that's calling you forth to do and activate your gifts, to shine your light. And so when you think about that, that spiritual bucket is an absolute necessity bucket that we need to be filling. We need to be nourishing. We need to make sure it's full or overflowing, because all of what we get to activate stems from that place first. Then we move into the space of your mental bucket, your intellectual capacity. It's that space on how you're continuing to grow and expand what you think, what you believe, what you speak about, what you bring about, how you manifest. Disrupting some of the things we've learned in the status quo, right? So we get into this mental or intellectual capacity where it's the ability to allow ourselves to challenge our own thinking, to expand what we are taking in and getting connected into a more deeper level of wisdom and knowing for ourselves. Again, it starts with our spiritual cup, and then we have our mental capacity and facilities that say, what am I choosing to think? What am I choosing to believe? How am I activating a deeper sense of wisdom for how I get to show up and serve in this world? And then we have our emotional bucket, which is the emotional intelligence. It's our ability to self-regulate. It's ability to feel the fullness of our emotions. It's the ability that as something shows up and might trigger us, that we're taking the responsibility and the care to allow ourselves the path for our own healing. It's the opportunity for us to do our own work, so that when we show up for others, it's not coming from our own survival mode in a place of reaction. It's really coming from a place that we've given that breath, that pause, to create our own resiliency from a place of response, which means we are activating that choice of how we're choosing to lead. And so your emotional wellness is that space where you then get to say, what's showing up for me? What do I feel right now? What does this mean for me? How do I get curious about that? What needs to be healed? Because only when we look at those 3 things, then do we start looking at our physical wellness, our physical cup, and then our energetic cup, right? Too often we're like, oh, I'm tired, or oh, my body hurts. And we look for a quick fix in either our physical or our energetic cups, instead of realizing that whatever is trickling down from that top trifecta, that top 3, is affecting what's showing up in our body. Your body is your best friend. Your body is the best truth teller. Whatever you're feeling is a reflection of something that's jammed up in one of those spaces. So if you're feeling pain, or if you're having an ailment, or if you're finding yourself getting sick, something probably needs to be put into alignment or needs to be fed up in that top 3. Same thing with your energy. We end up, they are the symptom. So if you think about, you've got this equilateral triangle, and then you have underneath it what trickles down. And so everything trickles down, and then you have the outcome or the symptom of what shows up, which is what shows up in your physical body or what shows up in your energy. And those are indicators. When something is showing up in either or both of those spaces, it's an indication for you to ask, what cups are not being filled? Where am I depleting myself? Where do I need to create more intention, more mindfulness? And what does it look like to actually nourish and fill that space? And so they're an indicator. It's just to notice them without the judgment. It's to notice what's showing up for you. And it's to give yourself a space to be able to activate that so that you can go up and actually do the work to lean in and say, where's the gap? What's missing? Where am I feeling depleted? Where am I not overflowing? And where do I need to be, right? So I say that when we talk about those 5 cups of wellness, it's really in that spiritual capacity, it's in that mental capacity, that emotional capacity, and then it's in our physical and energetic capacity. And so noticing that all of that is part of how you put your own self-love into action. So your self-care is that opportunity to recognize that your self-care is an activator that actually puts your own ability for self-love into momentum and into motion. And so it creates the belief centered around, I am worthy, I am deserving, just because. And like I said last time, there is no why am I worthy? Why am I deserving? This is the only time where that just because is just because. You are here, therefore you are. It is literally that simple. And so a couple things I want you to think about as I'm kind of winding things down for today is there's a couple quotes that I think, again, I want you to think about that space of wellness, that wealth being your wholehearted and enlightened self-love and leadership. This is your opportunity to understand what that means for you and how you define that. And I want you to think about, I love Carolyn Myss. If you haven't read any of her work, she's got some amazing work. One of her books is called The Spirit of Anatomy, or The Anatomy of, how's the book? What is the book called? It's called Anatomy of the Spirit. I knew I didn't say that right. And so what I want you to think about is this opportunity that what drains your spirit drains your body. So again, if something is showing up in your body that feels tight, contracted, you feel like you're in pain, it's an indicator for you to say, what is tapped out for me? What's happening in my spiritual cup? What's happening in my mental cup? What's happening in my emotional cup? Because what drains your spirit drains your body. What fuels your spirit fuels your body. You know, those things that bring you joy, those things that open up a deeper level of passion, those things that are juicy and delicious, they just feed you. I think about, there are times when I see Peyton sleeping, or I hear his little puppy snores. Oh, it just feeds my spirit. Same thing when I hear little kids giggle, right? Or when I'm out and the trees talk to me. There's just things that feed your soul. So I want you to think about what drains your spirit, drains your body, what fuels your spirit, fuels your body. I also want you to think about whatever satisfies your soul is your truth. And this is really powerful because we have a lot of, and we're going to talk a little bit next week about breaking patterns and destroying some of the noise that's getting in the way. But I want to talk about it more from a breaking patterns and letting go of old identities. Because what happens is we have allowed ourselves to be conditioned and to be tethered to other people's definition of who they think we should be and who they think we are. And so oftentimes we allow others to declare our truth for us, to tell us who we are, either by shooting all over us or by giving us feedback and insight that was not warranted, that says, well, you're this kind of person, or this is what I think, and we internalize that and we make that our truth. I want you instead to start quieting down the external. Stop quieting down what's going on outside of you and allow yourself space for deep stillness. This is, again, how you guys doing on that 100-day meditation, right? Our challenge, opportunity to get still for at least 20 minutes a day so that you can start listening to the whispers of your soul. This is how God, the universe, source, love, life is talking to you. It's only when we allow ourselves this deep space of stillness and this space to listen that we can start to understand what truly nourishes our soul, what truly feeds us, body, mind, and spirit, what truly satisfies that our aspect of our soul, that source of unlimited light, is our truth. And most of us are living a lie right now. We're living in a space of the illusion and being separate because we haven't actually gotten into a space that says what feeds, this is why I talk about this so much, what feeds your soul? And I ask this every time I do one of my big trainings. I ask people, when's the last time you fed your soul? And if some of you are like, I don't know, what's it going to take for you to realize we need to feed our soul every day? Every day we need to nourish ourselves, body, mind, and spirit. And what does that look like? So whatever satisfies your soul is truth. It's not about what everybody else thinks. It's about what you know and what you access when you allow that whisper to come in. And so I say that because there's another quote from Carolyn Myss that actually says, the soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. Too many of us are go, 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 do, busy, 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 busy. The more stillness you create, if you can't give yourself 20 minutes, the old Buddha saying says, then you need an hour. The more stillness, I will tell you that since I've honored this deep reverence for the stillness I need in my life. And I'm going to talk a bit more as we lean into things about my journey and opening to grace. And grace is really this area of, it's broken down into 5 components as well. But grace being this space of being able to allow myself a place to really recognize and understand what honors and feeds my soul. And the challenge has come in allowing myself stillness, and allowing myself to be with myself without any kind of external distractions or influences. And there's this fear that shows up for so many people around being alone, being by yourself, when that's where the juice, that's where the magic, that's where the opportunity really is. And so I'm going to continue to challenge you. And if you haven't started the 100-day meditation challenge with us, you can start at any time. I encourage you to start to practice 20 minutes of silence, of stillness for yourself every day, and just start building on that, because it's only in that stillness that our soul can speak to us around what it needs to heal itself, what it needs to nourish itself, what it needs to expand itself, so that you can be your highest and best vibration and frequency to express your own truth and the innate gifts that the world is waiting for right now. And so lastly, what I want you to think about is this space of put your ear down close to your soul and listen hard. I love that. Think about that. Put your ear close, like really lean in. And I love the way that Michael Beckwith says that when we start our meditation, go in with a beginner's mind. Even if you've meditated your whole life, every meditation is a new space and you are a beginner, because you pay more attention when you realize you don't know. When you let go of knowledge and open yourself up for wisdom and are the student every time, you have the capacity to access more. So you go in with a beginner's mind. You allow yourself a space of deep reverence and stillness and honoring. And then you listen. You listen ever so intently, as if someone is going to whisper to you the juiciest, most delicious secret they've ever known. And that you are going to be in that inner circle of who knows. Because that's exactly what the universe is trying to do. That's exactly what God, your inner guidance, the Holy Spirit, whatever it is, again, that you believe in, that life itself is trying to speak to you. It's only when you put your ear down close and you listen intently, as if the greatest secret is going to be shared with you. And then you listen and you open up access to your soul. And your truth and your knowing will drop in. It is that easy. It is that simple. And oftentimes we make it so complicated, right? So I'm just, for those of you that are here, I hope this is resonating. For those of you that are going to watch this later, I just want you to realize that we need to lean in. We need that space of self-care, which is our highest responsibility. I want you to realize that your self-care is your highest level of responsibility. It is not selfish. It is actually selfish when you choose not to honor that space, because you're choosing not to honor anyone who's affected by that decision. And everything we do, every thought, everything we speak, every action we take creates a ripple effect. And so if you are not taking care of the vessel that is you, if you are not nourishing and feeding your soul that source of unlimited light, if you are not taking time for stillness to listen to your own inner knowing and guidance around how you fill your 5 cups of wellness so that you are full or overflowing, that is being selfish. You being your first priority is your single most greatest responsibility, because it is only then that you can raise yourself to the level and vibration you need to put out the to fully express, to fully be seen in the gifts that have been given and are channeled through you. So I hope that you will take this idea of self-care to a much deeper level and realize that this is a requirement to activate your soul on its highest level. It is, again, it's a non-negotiable. It is not an afterthought. It is not a whatever. It is a space of recognizing and realizing that it's only through listening. It's only through making that your single most important priority. It is your highest responsibility. It's only when you do that you are honoring not only yourself, but you are honoring all of those you choose to show up and serve. So with that, I hope you all will take some time today for the rest of this week, and especially this weekend, to lean into a better understanding around what soul food and soul play look like for you, what you need, which cups are overflowing, which cups need some attention and some nourishment, and then what does that look like for you. And as I said, I will be introducing here very soon, we're just working out the kinks, a way for you to go deeper in this space and to really do the soul's work to activate your gifts at a higher level. And so stay tuned, because I will be introducing a way for us to play in that space, for us to dance together, and for us to do some really deep, juicy work together. So with that, everybody, I am sending you huge heart-to-heart hugs. I love you. I love to say I love you to the moon and back, to infinity and beyond, and all of the magical, beautiful, beautiful spaces in between. So with that, everybody, I invite you and challenge you to make your self-care the priority, and welcome and invite you to join us and continue to do the 100-day meditation challenge. With that, everybody, I'm sending you great love, lots of reverence, and I will talk to you all soon.